Friends and family, we are going to begin the funeral service for Mr. Ronald Burstein. If you are here, I'd ask you to kindly place your cell phones into silent mode or turn them completely off. And on behalf of the family, I'd like to welcome anyone via live stream who is with the family in respect that way as well. Services will be conducted by Rabbi Shoshana Conover and Cantor Shira Ben David of Temple Sholem in Chicago.
And we'll invite that family to rise. And so I'll invite you, those of you who are in, that we have these Kriya ribbons that are over our heart in order to be able to show that someone dear to us has been ripped away from our heart. And so we, in some ways, we mimic what Job did with the death of his family when he rent his garment right over his heart to say that his family had been taken away, and yet also that really, even in moments of such great pain, we know that our beloved spirit of our beloved Ron stays with us. And so we say, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Invite you to hear
Okay. Shaviti Adonai lenegdi tamid Kimimini balemot Lachein samach libi Vayagel kevodi Af besari yishkon lavetach Ki lo tazov nafshi lishon Lo titein chasidcha lirot shachat Todieni orach hayim Orach hayim Sova simachot et panecha neimot b'mincha netzach Shaviti Adonai lenegdi tamid Kimimini balemot.
Today we gather together to remember our beloved Ron and the way in which he was able to change the energy of the room the minute he walked in. There was not a single person, I don't think, that Ron ever met that wouldn't refer to him as a friend. He was able to see in so many exactly, he saw us for how we wanted to be seen in this world. He brought it out in us, and therefore his legacy of goodness lives on through all of us. And so today, as we gather in sadness and in heartbreak, we know that his spirit will remain with us forever. It is fitting that just last week we opened a new book in the Torah. The book in English, we call it Numbers, but in Hebrew, we call it Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And in our grief, it can feel like we are in the wilderness. Carol, there are no words for us to express just how sorry we are for this loss. You and Ron together, nothing like it. A love affair for 50 years. And so our hearts are with you now as you are walking through this wilderness of grief. Oh, and your girls, Rachel and Katie. If ever there were two people who could have the very best of Ron, and by the way, most of Ron was the very best of Ron. For him to see his best qualities lived out in you, Katie, your compassion, your endless ability to be there for others. Rachel, that and your bright ability to relate to everyone around you and also to do so through writing. Your adventurous spirit, Katie. Your beautiful way of parenting, both of you. He loved being able to see his best traits lived out in his daughters, and that they found loves of their life in the way that you did. Andy, your ability to see that just as much as you want to be able to, through the world of hospitality, welcome people in on a regular basis, Ron loved that you took what he did well so naturally and you made it part of your profession. He loved that, and he loved the way that you loved his daughter. And Brad, where's Brad? There's Brad. Thank you and thank you. Brad, he loved that you came into Rachel's life in a way where he could see that the affectionate relationship that he enjoyed with Carol for all the time that they were together, that you and Rachel have that. It brought him such joy and deep satisfaction. And then that you, Rachel, and you, Katie, brought into his life the apples of his eye, Maya and Olive and Joel. Well, we know that the way that they care for others, the way that they're able to articulate their beautiful feelings and thoughts, the way in which they're able to support us even while they're in grief. Wow, if that isn't a way that Ron's legacy lives on, I don't know what is. And Maya, just last Friday night, you being able to lead our entire congregation in the Shema with your beautiful voice, with your wise heart, I don't think that there's a better legacy to your grandfather. He was so deeply proud of this family. And you all know that because he bragged about them to you constantly. He is very much still with us. And so in this time, as we walk through this valley of death, we also know that we walk through with his spirit continually, reminding us of the goodness in life, even in our heartbreak. And so I invite you to join me now in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the ways, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And I saw that we also have Rabbi Cohn with us, and I wanted to say to you, Rabbi Cohn, how much it means to this family that you're here today. Thank you so much. And I know that there were so many, when Rachel and Katie and Carol saw that there were so many people who showed up for today, they said, we didn't think so many people would come for this. But of course, there's no other place where we would be except for here to be able to remember our Ron. And we know him from so many different places. But most of all, we remember him and we treasure him for the role that he had right here in the Chicago area, in Elgin and Dundee. On behalf of the family, I want to say to the cousins who are here and the cousins who are here, it means so much that you're here. We understand that when there was a patriarch like Ron who took care of this entire family, we know what a loss that is. And so we want to make sure on behalf of this immediate family here that we say to you, we know that this is such a huge loss. Carol, the way that you took care of your Ron, unbelievable. And of course, we also want to say a very special thank you to Dr. Rajan Shah, who made sure that in this last year, he had the very best care. And not only that, also Carol had someone whom she could call all the time to be able to check on and make sure that what she was doing for Ron was exactly what he needed. Certainly, the doctor and working with you, Carol, this extended not only Ron's life, but the quality of his life. Ron was born in Elgin, Illinois, and he never really left. He tried, but he didn't get very far. He had an older sister and a brother who was 15 years younger. And when their father died, when Ron was only 25, Ron became a surrogate father, which is the same role that he had with his niece and nephew and godchildren. He was always somebody taking care of others, looking out for what they needed. He was born a true patriarch, and he maintained that role throughout his life. Now, he had a huge family in Elgin. See, he was the son of a firstborn of 9 kids. And so all those cousins looked at Ron with such longing for their older cousin. He might have driven a little too fast at age 15. He might have liked drinking and partying a little bit. But it was the late 40s and early 50s. And did you say it's extended beyond that? Oh, at age 15, yes. And, he sped through town, and he didn't get into as much trouble as he could have or possibly should have. But he never took that for granted. And actually, after he became a lawyer, he wanted to make sure to be able to look out for those kids who were driving a little fast, maybe partying a little too much, and making sure that they had a fair shake through our justice system. The thing about Ron is that he might have been a little bit of a partier, a fast driver, but he was also responsible, and he did what he had to do for the entire family. He was the cool older cousin, the older brother type, but he was very smart, and this might have been his greatest characteristic. He was non-judgmental. You could come to him about anything, and he would not only comfort you, but you'd also have a lot of fun. Ron knew how to have fun. After high school, he went away for 1 year to the University of Southern California, going to USC, thinking that he was going to get away by going all the way across the country. But somehow his mom and uncle thought it would be a good idea to follow him there. So he felt like if I'm going to have to deal with them, I might as well deal with them at home. So he came back and finished his undergraduate degree at Northwestern. And then he went from there to go to law school in the city at John Marshall. Now, he was a lawyer, and he was still looking for how it was that his personal life could become complete. So he went to a Jewish singles dance in the city, and he was there with his friend Jerry Levine. And Carol was there with Bonnie. And they all went out, and then afterward, they went back to Carol's house, all of them. So later that night, Carol's father asked, "Did you get the tall one or the short one?" Ron was the short one. They met in March, and they married in June. They had a love affair that lasted 50 years. Now, Ron was a family lawyer, and he made sure to always be on the side of the defense, right? That was his stance, always making sure that the little guy got the fair shot. He solved a lot of problems in that small town, and he would never lecture. He was someone who always looked out for another person's best interest. Again, non-judgmental, but always open. And everything he did was confidential, but he would still take all of his clients back to his house where they could enjoy a little bit of dinner or a little bit of family feeling. And honestly, he made sure that everyone who was his client was also a friend, was also someone who felt themselves valued. By the way, if you want, you could be seated. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to sit.
Something that upset him was seeing how many people of color, how many kids of color in that town would not get a fair shake. And he wanted to always make sure to stick up for them. It wasn't fair that they were pulled over for stupid traffic offenses, that they can spiral out of control. He wanted to make sure to be there and bring justice and make sure that justice was on their side. And for many people, after court, they would stop for lunch. But Ron always stopped for antiques. He loved to shop. He loved collectibles. He figured that even when they would go traveling, when he and Carol would go traveling, if he saw a farmhouse or a sign that said yard sale, you knew you were going to be stopping. And that might have been because he wanted to collect this kind of paraphernalia that were filled in those old school places where there were those lounges. He wanted to make sure to be able to have those kinds of things where his father had a dry goods store and a tavern, and he always was looking to be able to have that connection still with his father. And so he wanted to be able to collect the ashtrays, the liquor bottles, those kinds of things that always added a little bit of panache. He wanted to be able to do that. In fact, he would take an old bottle and he would put new liquor in it because they just don't make the same kinds of bottles as they used to. Carol and Ron together. Unbelievable. He told all of us many times that his life revolved around Carol. That everything good in his life came from that relationship. Without her, he would have nothing. Not his house, not his family, not his children. In some ways, he was a simple guy. He got everything from resale. He wasn't into status symbols. Who would care about that when you have this? The two of you would dance, listen to music. You had all kinds of silly inside jokes. You were naturally affectionate. And really, the only thing that brought you even more joy than your couplehood is what came from your couplehood. I know that for you, Carol, you loved supporting him, and he loved that he was supported. Because how many people, when you would go on a cruise, would actually enjoy that while you were reading a good book, he was making friends with everybody around so that everyone would pull their lounge chairs up and want to hear one more story from Ron wanting to ask one more question. Carol just wanted to get some sun and a good read. But you knew that brought Ron such joy, and you found such joy in bringing Ron such joy. So you opened up your house to everyone. You opened up yourselves to everyone. No matter who they were, you made sure even the plumber had a cup of coffee and some Entenmann's and a conversation with Ron that could last for hours. You made sure that your house was one of hospitality, and one of the great joys was having a welcoming home. And there was nothing more welcoming in your home than your two daughters. And wow, was Ron proud of these two daughters. As a dad, he was patient and calm. Katie, you said you could count on one hand when he ever raised your voice to either one of you. He was supportive, open-minded to both of your crazy ideas. And Rachel, he was so proud that you were such a great writer and that you used your ability in writing to be able to relate to everyone. You called him up to read him things before you would have to submit something like a pitch letter for guests for the Oprah show or the Today Show or even CNN or Piers Morgan. You knew that you had in him a constant editor and someone who was constantly supportive. And he would always make sure that both of you were well taken care of. Katie, you were an incredible adventurer. From the time that you graduated college and went on your first backpack trip, first through Europe, then Southeast Asia, while some fathers might say, wait, maybe you shouldn't do this, he would say, just make sure that you have enough money, make sure that you meet new friends, and make sure you get to Cambodia when you're in Southeast Asia. Make sure you get the most out of life. He loved seeing that you would actually go and pursue your dreams like that. He loved, Rachel, that you were able to communicate so well with people and bring out the very best and make them feel comfortable. He loved seeing the two of you at work, but he also especially loved seeing the two of you as parents. Maya, you said that you want to be the kind of person that your Zadie is, that you want to be able to relate to anyone and make them feel comfortable. And I'll say this, Maya, through your years at Temple Sholem, and especially as a madricha, as a teacher's assistant, and through your incredible contributions to our high school, you do exactly that. And Olive, you took care of your Zadie like no one else. You made sure that he had his tomato sandwiches. You made sure that he had his perfect drink. You were the kind of hospitable welcomer of your Zadie as he was to everyone else. Can you imagine how much joy that brought him? He was so very proud of you. And Joel, you had very good taste in that you would only cuddle with your Zadie when nobody else, you wouldn't cuddle with anyone else. You did with Zadie. You knew your Zadie was so important and special. And when you look around at all these people, you see just how many lives he made better because he lived and he gave and he listened and he loved. And so we pray for the three of you that you continue to grow in your own wisdom, feeling yourselves supported by your Zadie always. I just want to share one story that I think really shares with you, our Ron, that I'll share in closing. Many years ago, Rachel was job hunting in New York, and she and Carol went to New York, and they went to that discount tickets place to try to get into a show, to get tickets to a show. And there was a big sign for Carmen Miranda, a big picture. And it took Rachel a little time to know who that was. And so Carol explained who that was. And then people heard it around her. And the person who was working at the ticket counter heard how much Carol raved about Carmen Miranda, that he gave you some of the best tickets in the house. All right. That's a great story in and of itself. But 2 years later, when Ron was visiting Rachel, he remembered that story about Carmen Miranda. And one of those times where he was antiquing and getting collectibles, he had some music that was notated by Carmen Miranda, written for her. And so what did he do? But he actually took it with him to New York. And then one morning, Rachel was wondering, where was her dad? Where was Ron? Where was Ron? You know. He was at that place, at the discount ticket place. He found the man who originally had gotten those seats for his 2 girls, and he gave him that piece of music. And he said, "Thank you for being so good to my family." That's it. That's our Ron. Using his passions to take care of others, making sure that everyone feels appreciated, and making sure that his family is taken care of, and making sure that he says thank you to those that take care of his family. We, all of us here, have a lifetime of taking care of this beautiful family, the way that Ron would expect us to, the way that Ron's memory and legacy deserves for us to. And so on this day, when we are remembering Ron, we do so in our Torah portion, Naso, that's all about lift. The Torah portion, the name itself means to lift. Ron lifted us. And so what do we do in response? We take that lesson and we lift up others, and we keep our own heads high, knowing that wherever we walk, we are not alone. Ron's spirit continues to inspire us, and his legacy, well, we can see it right here in this front row. We know that all the lives that you, Maya, and you, Olive, and you, Joel, continue to influence and love, and as you lift others around you, you'll know that your Zadie spirit lives on through you. May we remember always this beautiful legacy. May we know that Ron's spirit continues to live on, and may we be grateful in the ways in which Zichrono Livracha, that his memory is an everlasting benediction. We invite you to rise if you've been seated for El Malei Rachamim. We pray that Ron's soul is bound up in everlasting life.
El Malei Rachamim Shochein Mamromim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Im Keroshim Utorim Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim Et Nishma Yisr ben Mordechai Rachel Malka Shel Halach Leolama Val Harachamim Yastireihem B'Sefer Grafav Leolamim Vitzror Achayim Et Nishmata Harunai Hu Nachalata V'yanuach V'shalom Al Mishkava ונאמר אמן.
Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, Grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved Ron, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. I invite the mourners to lead us in Kaddish Yatom in Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayachon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'olmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei d'Kedusha B'richu Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Damiran b'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'romav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
We now have moments of being able to shovel earth onto the casket. In this way, we are giving honor to our beloved Ron and to the body that housed his beautiful soul. And so I invite the immediate family to come forward first. Sometimes people do the first shovelful inverted to show a reluctance to say goodbye. But then we do two more upright in order to show our intention of giving honor to his blessed memory.
Let me do one more announcement about Shiva before everybody disperses. The family will receive sitting Shiva at the Burstein Parks residence, 558 West Belden. And that'll be Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 6 until 9. Minion service Wednesday at 6. And Minion service Thursday and Saturday at 6:30. It is on our website. Also, please keep in mind, street parking is hit or miss in that neighborhood. So, garage parking is available at the Lincoln Common Garage, which is a block and a half away. That's the Lincoln Common Garage at 2316 North Lincoln. That information will be on our website as well. Thank you. On behalf of the family, I'd like to thank everyone via live stream. We are going to turn the service off at this point. And again, street parking is available for the Shiva, which all this information is on our website at the Lincoln Common Garage. And the Shiva hours again are Wednesday and Thursday and Saturday from 6 until 9. On Wednesday, Minyan at 6. Thursday and Saturday, Minyan service at 6:30. On behalf of the family, thank you.